what appears to be a lack of student motivation. Students are not wanting to do their work, and there's disruptive behavior that really impedes teachers from being able to teach. It seems that this unwanted student behavior is taking control of the learning environment. What do you think about this?
Well, we know that behavior is a form of communication. So the behaviors that we're seeing and hearing from teachers could be that the behavior is a signal that the activities or tasks are less than preferable. They may be difficult or challenging, or it could be that the students lack the executive functioning skills to initiate and or complete the task.
That's why I wanted to have this conversation about choice today. There is evidence that choice making is a very effective strategy that can help reduce or prevent challenging behaviors from occurring. Let's take a minute and define what choice is. I reached out to good old Merriam-Webster, and choice is defined as the act of choosing, so just making a selection. The second definition in Merriam-Webster actually uses the word power and defines choice as the power of choosing. Isn't that what control is about, having power?
Well, if we think about it, the majority of a school day takes place, the majority of the activities taking place during a school day is that students have no control over. So providing students options throughout the day gives them enough sense of control that maybe their behaviors will decrease so that they don't have to gain control of a situation. So also misbehavior can be a way to avoid or escape an activity. And so by giving choices, we eliminate or decrease the need to control that situation.
Here's another definition of choice that really speaks to the heart of what you were just saying and talking about. The Iris Center defines choice making as the process through which a teacher provides structured choice to a student in order to facilitate compliance with an instructional or behavioral request. When a student is offered a choice, the unspoken message conveyed to the student is, I value that you have preferences, and in this situation, you have the power to decide what you want or how you want to proceed with an activity. There's so many benefits to using choice as a strategy. Everyone is looking for ways to be proactive.
That's right. And choice is definitely a proactive strategy.
Choice making definitely gives students more control over their learning and behavior by allowing them to select from 2 or more options in the classroom. To be on the proactive side, the teacher can pre-plan these lessons and activities. Giving students choices related to schoolwork has been shown to increase student motivation and buy-in regarding their task, and it increases their focus to the task. Teachers who incorporate choice also see less disruptive behavior in instructional activities. The key, and I'm going back to the Iris Center's definition, is that the choices are structured, so they do take some pre-planning.
On another note, some students, particularly diverse learners, don't have as many natural opportunities to learn how to make choices because of the intense level of support that they sometimes have in place. And we know, and good, well-intentioned as adults providing support, that we often jump in a little too quickly sometimes to assist a student so that they're successful, which ultimately impedes their skill development and working in that classroom independently. Those students have fewer opportunities to take control of their own learning. And I think that the ideas we're discussing today can be applied in all educational settings so that the students have the opportunity to make choices related to their learning. Teaching students to make choices by providing options in school is a valuable lifelong skill that has an impact on their ability to learn, to make decisions, problem solve, advocate for themselves, and ultimately become self-determined individuals. So choice making is a natural a skill that we want to develop in students. But when we talk about choice, it might get a little tricky. Teachers have so many routines and schedules to follow,
and lesson plans with specific material that they have to cover. But choice making is about giving students options within those routines and scheduled activities and lesson plans. If options are built into the required activities and tasks, students can choose what they most prefer. And when they have the option to choose and work within their selected preference, they're more likely to follow the instructions the first time that they're given, or to make a good faith effort in getting the work completed. And you know that when students are more motivated to begin and they're actively participated in their learning, huge advocate of active student engagement, yes. They have more opportunities to be exposed to the material. They have greater opportunity to practice. And more practice with the learning material increases accuracy and fluency. And the positive practice of using choice as an added benefit reduces unwanted behaviors that teachers see in the classroom because the students are more motivated.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense, Jennifer, because having a choice gives a sense of autonomy over situations. And when I feel like I have more ability to exercise my preferences in a situation, I'm more likely to engage. So it makes very good sense why we see choice making as a increasing engagement and decreasing behavior.
Something you mentioned behavior. I read an article recently where the researchers have also demonstrated that not only does providing students choice within the classroom setting decrease the disruptive behaviors, it also can decrease destructive behaviors. And we are seeing more destructive behaviors or hearing about that, and it's very concerning.
So yeah, I know I've made a whole bunch of choices already today, but what does choice look like in the educational setting?
Okay, so if I am trying to create more opportunities for choice for my students, the first thing that I'm going to think about is what are those times of day that seem to draw out the challenging behaviors? Because if I can implement choices into this setting and into that learning activity, I have a great opportunity to possibly reduce student misbehavior related to trying to get out of specific tasks. When students have the opportunity to make selections before they actually begin the assignment, because it's an antecedent strategy, we see that they're able to exercise their preferences. And so those disruptive behaviors decrease. And for students who have executive functioning difficulties, giving them a choice actually helps to jumpstart their ability to initiate the task because they're choosing for themselves the best way to complete that assignment or lesson that the teacher has planned.
So ahead of offering a choice, I need to think of options and prep those activities that would still help the student accomplish the goal.
That's right. And these options could be related to choices either within the activity or between activities. So within activity choice is referring to when the teacher gives an assignment. Oh, there's the slide for everyone to refer to. About how or where the assignment will be completed. So that would be like within activity choices. Between activity choices are those which allow the student to pick from two or more activities to do, or letting the students choose the order in which they complete specific activities that the teachers assigned. So to dive in a little bit deeper, let's look at the within activities choices. These choices are related to materials and to the environment. Again, the activity is set by the teacher, but the choice is given to the student to decide the way the assignment is completed or where the student does the work. Material choice involves letting student decide how to complete the activity. So the teacher might say, after solving all the math word problems on page 73, you can choose to explain your answer by, number one, writing the answer in your math journal, typing it on the computer and printing out your answer, your explanation, or dictating the findings into recording and sharing with a partner. Another example of offering students choice would be, do you want to solve the odd problems or the even problems? Or pick 3 of these 5 math problems to show your work on. The student is still completing all 5 problems, but showing their work on 3. It's their choice. Some other opportunities in the day where the teachers can build choice into the students' day is to provide choices during non-academic times, such as during snack time or during leisure time. Right. And when the teacher offers choice in those periods of the day, it really conveys to the student that their preferences are valued and that the teacher has regard for their likes and for their dislikes. You'll see on the slide that oftentimes students are very much supported by having visuals that help them to see what their options are.
Yeah, another example that we can talk about for material choice would be what type of writing utensil do you want? Sometimes just the simple act of saying, do you want to use a crayon or marker to do this, a pencil or a computer? Sometimes that just alleviates that resistance to completing an activity just by giving a simple strategy like that. Choice of using the paper and pencil or a whiteboard.
Another choice that could go along with that would be environmental choice. So think about your flexible seating options here. Offer your students, give them the assignment, but then offer them, do you want to sit at your desk to do this work? Do you want to go to the group table and work with your peers? Do you want to stand at your seat? You can even sit on the floor if you want to. So now let's talk about between activity choices. Remember, this is providing several activities, so the teacher has those planned, and they all meet the learning objective that she has in her lesson plans, but you give the student the opportunity to choose from that grouping of activities or the order for completing them. Here's a great example of a Tic Tac Toe option board that the students were instructed to mark the paper. So each one of the fields had an activity or a lesson, and the students were instructed to mark either vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. And so whichever 3 lessons that their line fell through would be the lessons that they would be required to complete. And for like a math lesson, some of the activities might have been for 15 minutes, practice your math facts at your desk independently. One could have been for 15 minutes, play a computer math game, or for 15 minutes, flash flashcards with your partner.
That's a fun strategy too, just because it's a game of tic-tac-toe in addition to making choices.
True.
So another way to build in choice is to let students choose the order in which they'll complete their assignments or which center that they prefer to go to first. You could say, do you want to write your paragraph first, or do you want to draw your picture first? Being able to draw the picture might facilitate a student being able to get started first. They might be able to demonstrate what they want their paragraph to be about if they draw it first. Depending on the type of assignment, other output options could be drawing, could be a skit or a presentation, could be a video. Using a choice board like you see on the screen is 6 different ways to achieve the same learning objective, but given the student the option of how they want to have the output.
So bottom line, using choice is a preventive and positive antecedent strategy that has the benefit of increasing motivation, buy-in, and attention to task. It even promotes independence in student learning. With all of these positive things going on, you're very likely to see a reduction in challenging behavior.
Absolutely. So it seems like there are many ways to create choice within the school day without adding a whole lot of extra workload onto a teacher. Let's look at the process about how we implement utilizing strategies, kind of in a step-by-step fashion, kind of review what we've kind of talked about. So the first thing that you want to do is identify the activity where the behavior is likely to occur and focus on what you want that student to do. What's my real objective in this task that I'm having my students do? The second thing you want to do is have a pre-planned list of choices, and using a positive tone, tell the student you have a choice here and how we're going to complete this. Then you want to clearly state the 2 choices that will help the student meet your expectation. You may write your answers or you may type your answers. Next, step 4 is give a wait time for the student to think about the options and make their choice. And then step 5 is always acknowledging the child's choice and praising them for making the choice, and being sure that we honor that choice. I think sometimes as teacher, we might want to think that maybe one choice is better than the other, and we might want to try to persuade them. I really think you should do it the other way besides the one you chose. But remember, we're trying to foster motivation and independence. So we want to be ready to honor the choice that they selected. You can also brainstorm some ways throughout an activity and have ability to change up throughout the activity. For example, if you give them an option of materials they want to use, like type or write. If they start becoming restless or you're seeing that the students aren't following through, then have other choices available. Hey, I see we're kind of getting antsy here. Do we want to move? Do we need to move from sitting? Do you want to move to the floor? So having levels of choice opportunities within activities is a good idea as well.
And that really helps to extend the student's level of engagement and
Right.
ability to stick with a task that they might find challenging, or it could even be a task that's less preferable to them, by giving them things that they do prefer to
Right.
help them stick with it. But Lisa, there might be some stumbling blocks or hesitations regarding the making
Right.
of choices. Sometimes teachers encounter the situation that even after offering a choice to their students, they may not participate appropriately, or they may still refuse to do the work. And there may even be other barriers to making choice going on as well.
Right.
You know, the students might not have the prerequisite skills that are necessary to actually complete the activity that's being asked of them. And so when a student is offered choices and they're still refusing to do the work, stop and consider, does my student have the prerequisite skills to do this? Does he or she need additional instruction or scaffolded support in order to be able to successfully engage with this activity?
We've also heard some teacher concerns about the behavior that the choice alone might not be strong enough of a motivator. So if that's the case, sometimes you have to pair a more powerful reinforcer with the choice. I see this as a time when you can hang out for a minute with the student, get them started, remind them, hey, remember when we get through with our activity and if the timer hasn't gone off, remember you get to read. So sometimes we have to pair a reinforcement in addition to the choice. And just a side note, our Lunch and Learn next month is going to be on reinforcement and token economy. So be sure and put that on your calendar because that is a powerful strategy to pair with choice making as well.
One thing we have to consider, Lisa, is that some children just simply might not choose. In that case, the teacher might need to help the student that they are already good at making choices. She can walk them through the many choices that they've made through the day. This is a good time when teachers can use the think aloud process when they're engaging their student, model for them and walk them through the process of making choices. If the student is resistant and does not respond, the teacher can restate the choices using more simplified and concise language, followed by which one. For example, Sam, would you like to read out loud or would you like to listen to the chapter with headphones? If Sam doesn't respond, the teacher can ask the question again, but in a more concise and simplified way. You can choose to read out loud or you can choose to listen to the chapter with headphones. Which one? Read out loud or listen with headphones? When Sam chooses, either choice is a choice that the teachers already pre-planned, and so honor either choice as a good choice.
So one of the things that I've encountered recently is the teachers that say, well, you know, my co-teacher says that students just need to do what we say and we don't need to give choices or whatever. And so this can be a challenging barrier to overcome for us. It's important to look at what our ultimate goal is for our activity. We're wanting the student to engage in the class activity, to be successful with learning, and at the same time, not disrupt instruction or negatively impact their peers. Most of the time, we've already tried traditional disciplinary methods and punishments, and we've not seen improved compliance. So while the student being in the office frequently might solve the part of the problem of disrupting your instruction, it does not ultimately improve the student's success in learning. And so we know that a lot of times those traditional methods don't typically work. So while we can keep sending the student to the office, we can engage in power struggles with them. We can frustrate ourselves and others within the classroom. We also can have the opportunity to implement an evidence-based strategy to gain student compliance and task completion. I think another important part of this is, like we've already said, life is full of choice. And so this is a fairly natural intervention, and it's a great strategy for all students to help foster their independence and decision-making skills. We also can convey to those teachers or people that are hesitant about the strategy is that we're not planning to keep this intensity level long term or forever. Our intention is to fade the strategy once we have a more consistent occurrence of appropriate behavior. But I do want to stress, Jennifer, that it is a good instructional practice and should be ongoing, just maybe not at the same intensity level as your student learns the skill of participating and those behaviors are reduced.
That's a good point. There are those students, so Lisa, who have barriers to even understanding how to make a choice. And those students are going to have to be explicitly taught choice-making skills. You can do this for them by modeling for them how to make the choice, giving them many opportunities several times throughout the day, using both preferred and non-preferred items paired together, where it will encourage them to choose which one they want and give them ample practice in making choices, and prompt them when it's necessary to do so, so that they are successful in selecting something. What does that look like, though?
Okay, let's talk just a little bit about what it looks like to teach a student to actually make a choice, because we do have those students who aren't able to make a choice. So what we'd want to do is begin by giving two choices, one preferred and one non-preferred. So I'd say, Jennifer, do you want to draw or read? And I know that Jennifer likes to draw, so I'm like, do you want to draw or read?
I'm going to draw.
You want to draw? Okay, good job. You can. We're teaching her how to make that choice. But let's say she doesn't make that choice. She doesn't know. We know she likes drawing, but she's not really making choices actively. So Jennifer, do you want to draw or read? We're going to draw or read. Oh, Jennifer, let's draw. You love to draw. I want to draw. And so we're encouraging her to make that choice, and we're reinforcing her. Good job. I'm glad you chose to draw. And as we do that, we're going to re-offer items. And as she gets better at choosing consistently, we'll increase the number of items to choose from, so that we're actually explicitly teaching her how to make a choice.
If choice making is going to be effective, Lisa, the student has to have those necessary skills to do the required task. If they resist making a choice, it could be an indicator that they need more instruction or scaffolded support to complete the task.
Right. And we want to make sure, just in reviewing, that choice making is positive. It should not be framed with threats or punishment. Like, for example, you have a choice here. You can either start working on your math or you can go to the office. We want to presume compliance and give the student the opportunity to comply and engage in our activities.
One thing to really pay attention to and to consider is that students process information differently. So choices need to be offered in a modality that reaches the student's processing. So as you're planning and creating your choice options for your student, think to yourself, is my student going to understand these options if I give them to them just verbally, or should I write the choices down? Some students will require having pictures to actually choose to help support their understanding of what their options are.
And so this is a choice board for a student who, for calming down. So that's an option for if they need the visual support.
And just as a reminder, when something like this is presented to a student, they have to have time to process that. So give them ample wait time to make their selection. Sometimes, though, you might have students who will drag out the choice process, and you'll use your time trying to decide. And in that situation, a nice prompt such as, okay, take 2 more minutes and make your choice. And if you need to, go ahead and set a timer so that your student will have a clear understanding of how much time is available to make their choice.
Another thing to think about, Jennifer, is not just individual choices, but group choices. I saw a teacher a couple of weeks ago who, on the way back to class from enrichment, she was engaging in lots of corrective behaviors. Naturally, the students had been having a good time in PE and didn't want to go back to class and do math. So she's, correcting, get on the line. And so she came up with a really neat idea where she was like, hey guys, do y'all want to go cut across the breezeway and go real fast? Or do y'all want to take the long long way back to class. Well, of course, they naturally just wanted to take the long way. And it took maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds longer, but they made it to class. She was not having to negatively correct, and she was able to keep it to a positive frame. And so it just eliminated that misbehavior that she was having to deal with. So group choices, great strategy as well.
And I mean, what a fun way to add choice into the day. Well, Lisa, I have really enjoyed our discussion today. There's so many benefits to implementing this very simple strategy.
There are. If you're looking for ways to increase motivation, see your students become more independent, and stop some of those challenging behaviors from taking place, think about adding choice to your day.
Y'all, thank you so much for being a part of our conversation. I hope that you'll find a way to add choice to your day.
And we want to remind you, we have a Facebook page, Louisiana Autism Spectrum and Related Disabilities Project. We also are on Instagram at project_LASARD and on TikTok at LASARD Project.
Be sure to check us out on the web at www.lasard.org. We have an Ask LASARD tab, and we have resources available for you to access that will help you in supporting your students in your classroom. We've also dropped a link in the chat box for a webinar training survey, or you can scan the QR code with your phone if that's your preference, offering you a choice there.
And I think Amanda has dropped a link to the LASARD website to some of the resources that we referred to today. Those are also in the chat box.
Thank you for having lunch with us today. The next LASARD Lunch and Learn webinar will be December 9th on reinforcement and token systems. Hope to see you then.
We have a few more minutes if there's any questions or. Thank y'all for coming.